Hello, hello. Welcome to today's episode. Yeah. I believe today is the clarity piece that you, visionary, overthinker, career woman, leader, boss, have been currently in the process of activating. You will be activated today. Yes. I could tell you to get out a pen and paper and take notes, and I do encourage that. I never encourage that the first time you listen to this, though, because you're going to hear things that really get your spirit flowing, your soul awakened, your mindset sharpened. And you always hear it's very interesting how the brain works. We always hear something after the fact. So when we listen to this 3 or 4 or 5 times, we will actually hear something that we didn't hear the first time. And then we're like, where was I when I was listening to this the first time? Wasn't this in there? Yes, it is. I was doing some strategic busy work today, but it was productive busy work that for the first time, I don't have to sit here and force myself to create productivity. I don't have to force the flow. I don't have to force the momentum. I don't have to force myself to go against my energy. A lot of jobs have the two words that are actual nails on chalkboard for me: time management. And then when I see job ads or even job descriptions that have a list that is actually meant for 6 people, they want to cram one person into this large description and then slap on low pay. And in my experience, even reading job descriptions is exhausting. It, my energy level is already saying I'm out. When you have thousands or millions looking for jobs every single day, job descriptions matter. And why does it need to be a lengthy to-do list? Because if you are already burning people out with the job ad that you're placing, when your person gets in there, depending on questions they ask in the interview, depending on what red flag keywords come up, your person is already going to be burned out. And more than likely, they will be proving themselves to prove their worth that they're chosen and performing. They will be under promising and over delivering. How a person begins something, whether it's a job, a mastermind, a coaching program, a relationship, a friendship, anything, is exactly how it will go and exactly how it will end. As I'm sitting here today, still in my robe, still in my PJs, finishing up my job, if you will, my career outside of my actual 9 to 5, I have had the best epiphany because I've been doing my best to work with my energy to stay optimized and flow versus forcing myself to look a certain way online, versus forcing myself into a box just to look successful and to prove I'm amazing. So hire me because I'm going to blast the algorithm. I've got to stand out. So I'm going to force myself to look a certain way, which goes against my energy, which doesn't help me to feel optimized. So this morning I was productive. I optimized my time. I woke up, took my medication, took my supplements, drank my energy mixed with pre workout so I could get clarity, clear the cobwebs, and have an awakened brain throughout my day so that I'm not exhausted and that I have clarity and I can stick with staying optimized on the energy that I have instead of forcing things against it. And today is Monday. I didn't dread waking up today. I actually looked forward to waking up today because I'm on a mission. I am on a mission to build a movement with my voice. It is since last year I have been growing my podcast. Like I have been growing it for 3 years, but I believe it was September 30th, October 1st, 2025 is when I started paying attention to the stats of the growth of my podcast. I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden I had this idea. Pay attention and start celebrating the numbers. So I did. And in 6 months, by March or April 1st, 2026, my podcast had grown to 1,000 downloads with no production team, no editing team, no copywriting team, me, myself, Chat GPT, that's it. And my voice and my energy and my truth. See, these podcasts are not My podcast platform is not about strategies. It's not about, here's 10 tips to make your team more productive. I'm not going to spit out things that are regurgitated, barfable, nauseating things I've heard from people because those old ways of working, old ways of doing things are not what is going to help your team be productive. It is not going to help you lead. It's not going to help you shake up the status quo and decide you're not going to lead your team off of a cliff because your emotional intelligence or energy is off balance. You know, when they say work life balance, I wonder if people are really tapping into that. And what does that mean anyway? Work life balance. I do have some tips for you today on Monday, August 24th, 2026. Number one, you want to be more productive is look at how you're spending your time. What are you doing when you wake up? How do you want your perfect day to go? What does that look like to you? No, not when you go to clock in, not how many things you have to do, not by checking your email. No, if you had a perfect day where you could do anything you wanted your way right away, which is a recipe to keep your energy optimized, stay out of burnout, how would that go for you? What would that look like? How would you lead people if you are in a leadership position? Do you have an intention and vision for every single day that you get out of bed? And how you start your day is how you will show up leading your team. When there is no intention or vision with how we create the life that we want, we will allow other people to paint that vision for us. And before we know it, we will have lost ourselves. And by the time we look up, 30 years has passed. And we're like, how the hell did I get here? And if you're anything like me, you're going to recognize it. You're going to realize, dang, I've lost myself for 30 years. How do I get myself back? How do I find myself back? The number one question: what vision and intention do I have for today? How am I going to show up? What are my conversations going to be like? What am I going to listen to? What am I going to say to my team so they're not burned out and they hate coming to their job? So that they stop hating coming to their job. And when is the last time, leaders, you took a good hard look in the mirror to ask yourself, is my team functioning? Are they happy? Do I even know how my team works? What makes them tick? Oh, and by the way, leaders, do you know who's on your team that is sabotaging them? The toxic people, the gossipers, the complainers, the tattling problem seekers that are manipulatively getting your attention with tattling on the whole department. And what does that serve? Who does that serve? No one. Selfish ambition is who it serves. But somehow these people stay. These people get away with stuff. I don't get it. I will never understand it. One of the, I saw a quote, I think it was a meme or a reel, that says, one of the ways to kill your team faster is by watching toxic people get away with stuff. Tolerate. what's tolerated. I started off today in an energetic loop where my energy started getting riled up in a frustrated, overwhelmed manner. See, what's happened is I've had a vision created for my life and I have intentions every single day I set them. Right now, I am in the middle of what we call messy. I'm in the middle of transitioning and shifting into a new territory. I've looked at the over 3 decades of career and being in the same job so I have 3 decades in the medical field. I have been at my current job for 7 years. 7 years is a long time. I also keep seeing the time 5:55 on the clock for like the last week. There is a significant moment with those numbers. 7 means completion. 5 means grace, mercy from God. So I do a little bit of research just so I know. I'm like, why am I seeing this? And why all of a sudden does it feel like everything that I was doing is old? I no longer have a desire to do the same thing anymore. I'm done. My body is tired, it's worn out, it's exhausted because I'm in an environment where I can't grow. There's a ceiling that my head hits every single day. I've watched leadership tolerate very, very, very bad behavior from toxic employees that they still keep bringing into the department, which I don't understand. A body doesn't mean that the environment is going to grow. By the way, do you know who you're hiring? Anyone can lie in an interview, leaders, and the person in the interview chair. I've watched it. I'm not here to sugarcoat your world. I'm shedding a light so that you can figure out where you got to look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable for how your department is going. By the way, did you know that you could be leading your team off of a cliff? If every day you are showing up without a vision, without an intention, could it be that perhaps you've lost your own self trying to keep up? When that happens, you become numb to who you are becoming. And you could either be becoming a amazing leader or a leader that's taking your department off a cliff. You get to choose though today how you want to show up and lead. So today as I'm sitting here in my trying to stay optimized with my energy, I notice my energy level starting to tank. I am currently in the healing process from getting 4 diagnoses since I have been in this job. I don't need to name them, but all I need to tell you is that the symptoms have showed up my entire life long before I got the diagnoses, but now I got the diagnoses to figure out why the hell I feel awful. By the way, environments matter. So I'm sitting here today and I'm figuring out where my energy was going. It was going towards trying to figure out my next game plan so I can exit my current job. Because what I'm wired to do and what I'm skilled to do does not mean I'm supposed to sit behind a desk doing administrative tasks, but that's what I became good at. I became good at doing horrible things that suck, that rob my energy and my voice, that have robbed me of the greatness that I bring, of the skill set and the value. And many jobs have not seen it, but I forced myself to prove that I could do it, and I ended up exhausting myself. I didn't have the intention or the vision to have energy every single day. I didn't know what I know now, but I also know that being in the same types of environments, same things happening just with different faces for over 3 decades, it takes a toll. And without that vision and intention every single day, I didn't know to have. I wasn't even aware. to have one of those. I just allowed anyone to lead me. And I have been under the rule of people that resemble Pharaoh. I have been under the rule of leaders who walk in, and from the time they walk in, there's just chaos, utter chaos. The time they walk in, it's the same energy. You can just feel the energy. When they walk in, you can feel the energy of the people that work in the department or the environment, the building. And you can just feel the energy switch to now people's energy is like in a negative one. And when you are around that, it's only a matter of time before you become part of the environment. In the last 7 years, I will say that this is the only job where I have increased a lot of areas of my life. I've gone through massive healing. It's grueling, it's excruciating, but I still do it. I've gotten my coaching certification. I have created my podcast from the ground up, and I am successful with it. My voice is what people listen to. What I do on my job is exactly what I do outside of my job. It's my superpower. I also, have had a therapist. I've joined masterminds, business stuff, gotten a lot of coaching and mentorship. I've grown myself. I know how to use AI, which by the way, when you have people on your team that are sharpening their skill sets and they keep telling you, or you notice that they're growing, those are valuable people. But if you're not careful, and if you don't have the intention and the vision to energetically lead them, mold them, guide them, you will end up leading them out of your department because of your lack of leadership awareness. I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff anymore. I'm not here to bring shame or guilt, but I am here to hold up a mirror for you. Because if you're leading your team and it's going in the same direction and you're blaming your team and you're not taking accountability, what purpose do you have that is serving your team? Do you have an intention every day of how you're going to lead? How are you going to engage your employees? By the way, being a fake robotic energizer bunny is not a way to engage your employees. Because do you even know what your employees are dealing with? Do you? Do you even know whether or not your employees are going through a tough time behind the scenes, but they're just showing up and being fake because you are expecting them to be fake? Do you have a vision and intention on how you're going to energize your department? How about, do you have an employee engagement department? I believe every job, instead of it being a department within departments, I would sign up if there was an employee engagement department because I would let them know this is what I'm here to do and I need room to do it my way, which won't go against, certain things. But in order for me to make a change here in this place and to get people excited to actually be here, I need you to give me free reign and let me do my magic and let me work without the only if, without the do it our way or else mentality. Good old corporate. But imagine, because if you think about it, leadership starts at the top. Imagine for a moment that you started setting the tone every single day with having an intention and and a vision. And imagine that you would start seeing more productivity in your department. How about increased sales? How about increased confidence? Are you a business owner? By the way, leaders who are operating in a burned out fashion, something ends up lessening, stopping. You stop feeling the fire. Maybe you've stopped showing up in groups that you've created. Maybe you aren't showing up on social media. Maybe you're you're just kind of going with the flow. You're kind of there, but you're not. Burnout happens and it shows up in different ways. By the way, who you have on your team, who you've hired matters. Do you have anybody on your team who, what I like to call like a professional hype girl? Do you have anybody there that that engages your team without being asked? By the way, do you know who those people are? Do you know who's on your team? Do you know who's in your department? Do you know how they tick, how they operate? Do you have an intention and a vision for what types of people you want in your department? Because it matters. Because you could unknowingly be driving your best employees out the door. And believe you me, when that happens, the only people you have to blame is yourself. I have been under the thumb of leadership that has caused me to walk out the door and never go back. I've had conversations with amazing coworkers who are like, well, I'm going to leave, the job this way. And we were just, having somewhat, just a general conversation of 2 weeks notices and all that stuff, just random conversations. And and so the topic came up of how they would leave a specific, job they're in. And I said, yeah, but when I leave, I'm not returning. They're like, well, it's a really good. I said, if it was a really good job, we wouldn't be planning our escape route. Okay? Doesn't matter how the benefits are. Doesn't matter if the pay is okay. It doesn't matter. If people are planning their escape, if planning their exit, and all they say is how much they hate the job, no, I'm sorry. Your plan to return to a department is less than zero. Nice try. Because once I leave a horrible place, I'm not going back. I also think of it as a business transaction. I look at the business transactions I have been doing for over 3 decades. These are not people I'd want to do business with at all. I look and I'm like, these are people I would have set boundaries with, and I would not have gone back to, I would let them go. Yeah. I more than likely would have walked away. Actually, in the first call, I would have asked lots of questions to figure out the red flags and such, and bad business transactions. That's what it's like being in a bad job. I look at the environment. Is this a place that I can thrive in? Or is this a place that I'm going to be surviving every single day? No matter what I do, no matter how I do it, no matter everything that I've done to better myself, am I surviving in this department or am I thriving? I believe there comes a point to where we decide whether or not we are done with going through the motions, if we're done negotiating our self-worth, our value, if we're done negotiating our energy and our soul and our spirit and our mindset every day, if we are done with the just, you know, going through the motions and doing things that causes us to be um, in the same ways of doing things and even expecting different results, I'm telling you, it will drive people insane. You know, I'm I'm chuckling because I have moved over to LinkedIn and I started posting some stuff. And believe me when I say LinkedIn is a platform where people give all this regurgitated information. They give all of this leadership stuff Everyone's trying so hard to prove how amazing they are and prove their worth and their value, and everyone's posting about leadership, yet no one is talking about leadership the way that I do. That's how I know what I do is different. I've paid the cost, I've paid the price to not have a vision and not have an intention with my life, and I paid many prices. My body is now paying the price for all of the decisions I made that didn't have a vision in front of me, that didn't have a starting point, ending point, didn't have anything. You know, when we start the career world, where it starts is when we're little. By the way that we're taught to operate in jobs is in school. They teach us, be on time or you're going to get in trouble. Where do we see that? Jobs. We are taught to show up, sit down for several hours a day, only have a break walking in between classes, and then getting in trouble. If you hear a noise, it's I'm getting water. Then we get in trouble if we're late. Oh, yeah, parents get in trouble. Parents might go to jail. You might get letters in the mail, and son was absent today, or your daughter was absent today. Yeah, well, and, so we're taught that we have to conform in school. By the time we get to the job, we're not taught how to show up as a leader. We're taught to go along with everything. We're taught to go with the flow of the water instead of against, the, school of fish. We're taught to go in line um, with the status quo instead of against it. We are not taught to have a vision or intention in our lives in the educational system, neither in employment environment. And every person I see who's been posting on LinkedIn, I'm going to say something here. If you're a leader, if you're a job person, if you're a employee advisor or something along the lines that maybe even helps people get jobs, one of the things that I don't see, one of the things I actually keep seeing is a problem where people don't have a vision or an intention with how they want to go get a job, and instead they're complaining. They're not celebrating that they put in 10 resumes today and leaving it at that. They're mad, they're angry, they're disgusted with the job searching process, and you can hear it. Who wants to hire people who are complainers? Nobody. Not one job person who's that helps people get jobs. I'm not seeing them write how to ask the closing questions when you're searching for a job. Not having a list of questions that you keep on hand that are the same. Realizing that you're not being interrogated. An interview is where you get to interview the employer. And if all people can think about is how to get the job and how to get employed and how to stay employed, that's not a vision. That's not a intention. That's a do what everybody else is doing mentality. And are people stepping out of the box to get jobs? Not necessarily. They're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And yet the people that are leading are not in a leadership position. Today is a Monday. I want to tell you something. The majority of the workforce of corporate, of career folks hate Mondays. They think it's because it's Monday and because they have to sit there till Friday. But in reality, it's not because it's Monday. It's not because it's another day of the week. Monday's going to show up whether we like it or not. It is because people have been editing themselves and abandoning themselves to fit into every environment with no vision, no intention every single day. They've lost themselves and they sit there wondering when, wondering when they will be seen, when they will get the pay they deserve, when they can leave, wondering when somebody will see them, wondering when they will be, uh, you know, praised for all of their loyalty. There was a recent email that was sent to folks at my job who had been there for, I think it was what, 80 years combined, whatever. So I saw a lot of congratulations in the surface level email that I saw from the person that leads the department. And I say this because to me, a congratulations is like a slap in the face. And I was like, as a leader who's leading this team, that is a superficial thanks that doesn't actually let them know why they are appreciated. And so, what I did, because I see myself as a leader and someone who is encouraging, and as a employee engagement guru, because I have the experience, I decided to email them separately. I verbally shared with one person why they're appreciated. I said, I wanted to let you know that a congratulations to me isn't enough. It's like a slap in the face. So I said, I want to say thank you for being a friend. Thank you for your mentorship here. Thank you for knowing things so that when we come to you, you give us information. Thank you for walking through here when you were going through a really tough time that nobody else knew about except for me. Thank you for being you. Thank you for bringing your joy. Thank you for showing up even when you didn't want to. Thank you. And I gave each one a specific thing that I appreciate about them. Appreciate whether it was their humor or thank you for showing up. Thank you for just being you. Thank you for adding value. Thank you for being here as long as you have been. Thank you for not quitting. Thank you. Just thank you for being you. Nobody's ever thanked for being themselves. We are expected to turn into something else that we're not, all to prove we are worthy of doing the job. I'm telling you, with a vision and an intention, you set the tone of how your employees feel walking through the environment. It's not up to your employees to set the tone. You set the tone as a leader, and yes, it's Monday. Did you notice how your team, whether they love Mondays or hate Mondays? I believe every job should have a activity that gets people hyped up, engaged, cheered on, encouraged when they walk through the freaking door. And no, pizza parties aren't going to do that. So if I'm going to start closing with this, today as you listen to this is where you get to give yourself a check. Am I leading my team to the best or am I leading them off a cliff? How am I showing up? By the way, do I know what Sally is going through? Do I even know how she ticks? Do I even know what lights her up? Or do I just thank her for the metrics every single day and get on her case when she doesn't reach them? Or somehow, I don't know why it is. Every leader asks the question, why? It's like that is an interrogation word that brings on defensiveness. Find a different word. Say, I would love to know how you came to this conclusion. Like, I'm curious. Like, please let me know. By the way, if I were to see that, I would be like, oh, here's what happened. And I would be happy. I wouldn't feel like I had to give my whole life issue. I wouldn't feel like I have to explain and defend. But I'm telling you, leading is not an optional thing. Leading, it's not optional for you just to show up and lead a team and just expect the best, hope for the best, hope everything's going well, hope they reach their metrics today. And if they don't, I'm going to definitely harp on them because that's what being a leader is. No, it's not. So, if nothing else that you walk away with today, it is how can you show up in your environment and lead your people effectively? I gave you a very It sounds basic, but when you tap into it, and I gave you tips, I gave you reasons without sharing the exact blueprint, it is by setting a vision, having a vision, and setting the intention every single day of how you want to lead. And it's letting go of expectations that send your team and department into a frenzy, chaos, stress. I forgot to turn my stocks alarm off, so hopefully this keeps going. Another glitch. I don't care. I'm not here for perfection, but I am here to say that it's time we start operating differently in the corporate world, in our careers, even in our businesses. By the way, if you don't have somebody on your team that you can reach out to that can be that professional hype girl, I'm going to ask you, why not? Why the hell not? By the way, I was positioning myself as a professional hype girl. And I got talked out of that by mentors that I hired. Yes, I got talked out of it because they didn't see it as a great business plan. One mentor told me to go research it, and she goes, "Are you sure you want to be that?" She talked me out of it. And yet I have a message saved by a very prominent author, speaker, businessman who left me I think it was less than 2 minute potent message of the value of being a professional hype girl. And when I even think about that, I could cry because I wanted so much to be a professional hype girl because I know what I bring to the table. I know the transformation I bring. I've got the receipts to prove it. But I bring that to the table wherever I am. But also because I see my worth, I decided to stop proving it to people for free. So I am a professional hype girl, but that's not all I am. So if you don't have one of those, I'm going to ask you why not. It's so important. Imagine having a voice like this every single day in your ear, reminding you who you are, what you have accomplished, asking you, hey, what's your vision? What's your legacy? And putting that in front of you every single day. Hey, what's your vision? You don't have that? No wonder you're burned out. Because we're pressing play to too many different things instead of pressing play to the thing that is going to help us keep going so that we don't get burned out. We're burned out because we're trying to be everything to everyone. And if we're leading with that mentality, by the way, I'm gonna say one thing and then I'm gonna close. The leadership educational things that are provided in corporations and environments, including in network marketing, in my experience, are not what's going to help a leader lead effectively. It's just not. It's not going to help people lead effectively. Even the trainings that I get from my current job, they're all done on the computer. I've never gone through a fire drill at my job. Just watch this and sign off on it. Okay. Gee, like that's going to help. So, okay. Like, how many more of these do you expect us to do? So, corporations, I believe, really need an overhaul, but I wasn't called to like be the vigilante and tell corporations off, right? That's not what I'm here to do. And so, with an intention and a vision every single day, you get to set the tone of how you want to show up, of how you want to lead. And when you go to listen to this with your team, you're going to find ways that you can, "Oh, yeah, my vision for today is what's my intention for today?" When we start focusing on that, When somebody goes to ask us what's good in our lives, it will no longer be just about the how good we are in our job or what we did well in our job that day. It's not what that question is about. Setting the intention and having a vision every day allows us to get beyond ourselves and allows us to bring change because now it's no longer about us. And when we lead a team, when we lead an environment, when we lead a career, in a career, it was never about us to begin with. But somehow that messaging out there is about us as a leader. And your team is only as good as you are. What is this? The speed of the leader is the speed of the pack, right? It trickles down. The leader is what is who sets the tone, not your team. It starts at the top, it trickles down. You know, when I actually said that to an employee who sold us our new car a year ago, he understood exactly what I was talking about. And then he asked, "Are you going into jobs yet with what I'm talking about?" I said, "Not yet." But he even knew that what I was talking about was absolutely beneficial. Starts at the top, starts with you. What are you doing to do things differently to lead? So happy Monday. That concludes this episode. And if you want to find out more about how to work with me, by the way, this is what I do. I use my voice. I also have a website. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for you to go look at it. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is follow, subscribe, send this to a friend, send this to your business partner, send this to other leaders in the career corporate world, and also listen to these with your team. This is my business card. This is how you get to understand how I work. So, with that, that concludes today's episode.